Hi there, I am Victoria Peat, and in this video tutorial I'm going to show you how to sew the character I from my miniature foundation paper piecing alphabet. It's super easy, this one. It is a 1-star character, so it'll be nice and easy to sew. So let's get going. Right, in this one, here's the pattern page. So as usual, you've got your layout image, your colouring in and your assembly. And you can see here, it's only got 5 pieces and it's all sewn together in one section. This block is made up from one section only. Here's your reversed pattern pieces. Now I know this is one section and it's very symmetrical, but sometimes people like to do different coloured backgrounds, so that's why the pattern pieces have been reversed. So this is 1 star. What I've done is I've already cut out a pattern piece and I have that ready to start sewing with. And what I've done is I've pre-folded along all of those lines, so I'm ready to go. The colours that I'm using for this are the navy blue and the pink. The pink is going to form my letter, and the navy blue is going to be the background. So what I need to do is I need to start off with a piece of fabric that's going to cover the back of piece number 1. And I've got a large piece here, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim it down a little bit, because I don't want to work with a piece that's necessarily as big as that. So I'm going to trim off a piece. And I'm going to use my glue pen just to place a little bit of glue on the underside of section number 1, and that will hold my fabric in place. If you are using a fabric that has a right side and a wrong side, make sure that the right side of the fabric is facing downwards and you're attaching your foundation to the back of this fabric. Make sure, I'm going to be using an add an 1/8 ruler for this today, but if you're using an add a 1/4 ruler, just make sure that you've got 1/4 inch of fabric all the way around this first piece. I'm going to place that on top, nice and centrally, and then I'm going to fold back the line between piece number 1 and piece number 2. So I'm going to fold back along that line, and I've already pre-folded my lines, so that makes this really easy. I'm then going to trim, or first of all, I'm going to just get rid of this piece of fabric here, because we know we definitely don't need that. But I'm going to save that for another time, because that's a decent sized piece of fabric. I'm going to take my add an 1/8 ruler and I'm going to place the lip of the ruler against the line on the paper, and I'm going to trim. Take away that excess, that I'm going to get rid of, and then I'm left with a nice little seam allowance here. I'm going to take that, and I now need to sew piece number 2, and piece number 2 is my background fabric, which is navy, and I'm going to place that with a raw edge matching against here. Okay, I'm not going to trim this piece for the time being, so I'm just going to take that over to my sewing machine. I like to take it over as is, like this, and come over to my machine, and I'm going to sew along the line between piece number 1 and piece number 2. I have got my standard foot on my machine, and I've got my stitch length reduced to 1.2 today. I'm going to sew along that line. My threads. I'm going to come over and I'm going to press, so I've now got those sewn together. I'm now going to press this blue fabric away from that pink. Got my little iron. That's pressed. So I've done piece number 1 and piece number 2. I'm going to flip that over. I now know I can trim away this fabric here. And I now need to know, I'm going to move on to sew piece number 3. So I'm going to fold back the line between piece number 1 and piece number 3. And I'm going to trim the pink away. Again, I'm going to save that. You never know, there might be a tiny little piece that you can use that for. I'm then going to repeat what I did before. I'm going to place the raw edge that I've just cut on the pink. I'm going to place that on top of the navy against a nice straight raw edge. I'll take that over to my machine, and I'm going to sew along the line. down. And I'm going to press. Press away. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. I'm just going to cut away this excess here. So we can save that again to be used. So we've done piece number 1, 2 and 3, the eyes coming together nicely. Now we need to sew together a piece number 4. We need to make sure that that piece extends up and past the dotted lines on the piece of paper, on the pattern. I'm going to fold back along the line that I pre-creased earlier. If you haven't pre-creased, you can use the tapered section of your ruler or a piece of card to fold back along that line. And fold back and trim those pieces off. Chuck those away, we don't need those. And then I'm going to sew along the line to join piece number 4. So along here. Now you'll see here some of this is straight and some of this is a bit wibbly. What I'll do is I will sew this piece along line number 4, and then I'll just go in and trim off this little excess bit here that's not quite straight. And this time I'm going to sew all the way through up to the dotted line on the outside of the pattern piece. That one again. Oh no, I said I would trim first. So I'm going to move the paper back out the way and give just the seam allowance a press. So I'm using my add an 1/8 ruler, trim off that little extra bit there. Oh, it's only the seam allowance I've trimmed at this point. I'm not trimming this extra piece away yet. I'm going to press this into the right position and then I'll trim. Only because that's quite an easy way to make an error. So don't trim the rest of your fabric too soon. Push that away. Press. Now I'm going to turn it over and trim away that excess. Quite through the corner. Okay, and now the last piece that we've got to join, so we've done piece 1, 2, 3 and 4. The last piece is across the bottom. I told you this one was nice and simple. So fold back along that line, trim off to 1/8 of an inch. Now this one you could quite easily do with add a 1/4 ruler, but it's when the letters start to get smaller that adding 1/8 makes a lot more sense. So I've got this part left, and I know that I've got to get the fabric behind this number 5 piece, including the seam allowance. I'll place that on top, and I can see that there is enough fabric underneath. So I'll take that over to my machine. I'm going to sew all the way along this line through the seam allowance at either end. Just make sure that when you come over to your machine that this piece on the underside doesn't accidentally flip out the way. Give that one a press as well. Press away. Trim. When it comes to a point where the letter has been fully pieced, I will then take my standard quilting ruler, and I tend to use the rotary cutter that I keep reserved for paper to trim. And what I'm going to do is I'll just show you a little bit closer if we can. I've sewn all the sections together, and I now need to trim up to the dotted line, which is the outside edge of the pattern piece. I'm going to take my quilting ruler, and I'm going to trim off up to that line. I would put that plate away, but it's broken. The handle's broken, so I've just got it facing away. And I know no one's going to come and pick it up whilst I'm filming. And last but not least, the final seam allowance. Okay. So there you have, that's the completed letter I. Here it is. Super simple. This one's a 1-star character. Nice and easy to sew. It's a good one to start off with if you haven't tried yet. I hope that's been really useful for you. I know it's quick, but I still thought it was really worth showing you how the letter I comes together. If you'd like to get hold of the pattern looks like this, the front of the pattern. That's available as a PDF pattern and is available for instant download. And you can get that on my website. Give me a shout if you've got any questions. If not, I will see you next time for the next letter in the series. See you again soon. Bye.